Is there anybody more fun to watch right now in all of sports than Joe Flacco?
No. Nope. He's number one.
100%. He's just out there playing huck it, chug it football.
Yeah. Yeah. Just play action boot all day from Madden.
If you get the reference from Zach and Miri Make a Porno. Man, Roethlisberger's out there just fucking slinging it. Just huck it, chug it football.
It's the second time you've made that reference.
Have I really?
Yeah.
What have I made that before?
You've made it before on a podcast. We've done however many episodes of these things.
Well, apparently 186. Now, last I checked before this thing started. So your little description in the StreamYard's inaccurate.
Yeah, I'm struggling, but we're good.
Steven's fresh out of just getting some bagels from, what was the name of the place?
House of Bagels.
House of Bagel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bagel snob, so unless it's top-notch bagel, I don't eat it.
Are there any good in California, or are you out on California bagels?
Ooh, I strictly, I go by Gambino's. They got some nice bagels, but I usually reserve all bagel eating for myself when I'm either in Florida to see my mom or when I'm on the East Coast, because that's where the real bagels are at, my man.
What was the episode of No Reservations I was watching? It was with Anthony Bourdain. Yeah, Montreal. He was in Montreal, I think. Or no, he was in Quebec. He was in Quebec. And he was
Quebec.
And there's a place that claimed they had the best bagels. So he said, well, I'm from New York, so I know the best bagels. Just kidding. That's not Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain does not talk like that.
He doesn't talk like that.
You know his favorite meal?
What?
He says like his favorite restaurant in all of LA. Well, rest in peace. But he said once upon a time his favorite meal was on all of LA, In-N-Out. It's his favorite place to go to.
Yeah, well, it's easy. You get a little menu. You get the diner experience. It's old school, man. I think people disrespect In-N-Out way too much
because it's overhyped. I will admit they have fantastic burgers, but the fries are cardboard.
Yeah, the fries kind of stink, but you got to put a little salt on them yourself.
Not just salt. You got to go animal style if you're going to eat their fries.
I don't like animal style too much.
Oh, you're insane.
I like it, but then you eat the top, and then you're just left with nothing but scraps. I don't mind their fries. I love In-N-Out, man. I'm an In-N-Out stan. Apologist.
Better fries are at Five Guys. Will you admit that?
Yeah, I'll admit that, but Five Guys also cost twice as much.
I disagree. Well, is it that more expensive?
You can't disagree when it's a fact.
I haven't been to Five Guys in quite some time, so I can't say. But I think you get a bigger burger, so it's more bang for your buck. Alliteration with the B's.
I'd say so. And they do, and their fries, I will say that they, I don't know how they do it. They say they give you like a cup, but then they just literally fill your entire bag with fries. So you have like 2 orders in just one, in not just the cup, but the bag too.
Yeah, but, you're getting more bang for your buck when it comes to fries.
Did you ever go to Burger King back in the day?
Of course I did.
Yeah, no one really goes there anymore, but their fries...
Well, I mean, they have great commercials, but they've kind of fallen off burger-wise.
Agreed, because there's just other places. But we used to go to Burger King all the time, and the fries used to be like legit, and they kind of changed them up a little bit. Yeah. Burger King's fries underrated, even though I think they're straight frozen, and they don't really make them fresh.
Yeah,
but they always tasted amazing. I loved Burger King fries.
I remember I ate a lot more Burger King when I was a kid, and nowadays I don't eat much fast food, whether it's like McDonald's or Wendy's. That's usually my go-tos. But yeah, I haven't eaten Burger King. God, I can't remember when. Probably decades, honestly.
Damn, it's been a long time since I've had the BK Lounge.
BK.
Yeah.
Have it your way. I will say that song is getting a little overplayed. It was fun last year. They can't find any new variations of it.
Oh, now it's getting overplayed.
Yeah, I decide. Me and me alone. Just your opinion, man. Steven Langford, Derek Papa. Alon Desai is going to join us, too, because we're going to talk a little Raiders with him about what he thinks about the future with the team. Should Antonio Pierce be their head coach going forward? We'll also talk a little CFP with him, because while I watch college football, I'm not as big as Stan, I guess, as you said earlier, as Alon is. So we'll break down these CFP, CFP games. You don't need to be redundant and say CFP playoff games. Because my Longhorns are playing the Washington Huskies, and then we got a big old matchup between Saban and Harbaugh, the Ego Bowl.
Yeah. Just fair warning, and I'm not saying this as a slight to Alon, but there's going to be a lot of Alabama bias when Alon comes on. Just
oh god, yeah. Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be. It's basically it's going to be just your Roll Tide, man. That's what the podcast is going to turn into.
Pretty much, he loves his Alabama Crimson Tide. But we'll talk to him about college football and the Raiders. But real quick, just finishing with the Browns and Jets. I had that game on in the background. I was watching also Warriors and Heat. We'll talk about the Warriors. Dude, Joe Flacco. He might get comeback player of the year over DeMar Hamlin. And which I know some people, like, my argument would be like, yes, DeMar Hamlin almost died. And it's terrible. It was terrible. But he came back to be the third string safety. He didn't play that much this season. It's a fantastic story. But if we're talking about comeback player of the year, Joe Flacco wasn't playing most of the season. And this guy's fucking slinging it around like he is. I was texting my buddy, Grayson, who lives in LA, who I lived with for quite some time in Los Angeles. And during COVID, we would just play old Madden. Like, we would play like Madden 2012 with Aaron Rodgers on the Raiders and just throw like a ton of touchdowns and a bunch of interceptions. And that's what Joe Flacco's doing right now. He's just a fucking gunslinger, not caring about anything. He'll throw 3 touchdowns that look amazing, and then he'll throw some pick 6 to Jermaine Johnson. You're like, where the hell did that come from? But you forgive him because he just came off the couch. So I am having a blast watching Joe Flacco. But I see a lot of people saying, is Joe Flacco gonna bounce the Ravens out in the second round of the playoffs, and he's gonna go on a Super Bowl run? I'll be the first to say I love what Joe Flacco's doing, but I wouldn't be surprised if he throws 4 interceptions in a playoff game. It's like, oh, that was a nice story. Okay, it's over.
Yeah. Those stories quickly die. I mean, look at what happened with Tommy DeVito. Gets benched for Tyrod Taylor, then he's like, and no one cares. No, it's a great story. It's probably like, I don't know. Football's kind of been weird this year. It's been fun, but as football is, I mean, after all, it's the NFL, but it's been kind of strange. There's nothing that's really stood out. Really, what's defined the season almost is like injuries to starting quarterbacks. Then the MVP thing, but Joe Flacco, I think, is probably the best story out of the NFL, and it's sparked the just strangest debate. You can have the MVP debate all you want, but having a debate over comeback player of the year just feels strange. And I followed DeMar Hamlin's agent on Twitter last year, Jordan Rooney, because I wanted to, or his business partner or whatever he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to get like updates, because that was the best way to get DeMar Hamlin updates. And on KCBS, I was keeping people updated like crazy on that. And and he's like fighting with people over DeMar Hamlin comeback player of the year. Like,
are you serious?
I've seen him quote tweet like 30 tweets talking about the definition of comeback player of the year and how DeMar Hamlin should win it. And people saying Flacco should win it. It's so weird, dude. Like, why are you arguing over that? Like, I'm not, I know it's your boy, but like, and he deserves something like that, but he, after all, has only made like 2 tackles this year and sort of his comeback. He played in an NFL game, but hasn't really come back. Like, say, I don't know, a Cooper Kupp or something like that. I don't know. Like, it depends on your definition, but it makes you feel weird reading all those arguments. It's like, why are we arguing about this out of all?
I didn't know his agent was doing that. That seems like a lot. Like,
that's like arguing over the in memoriam at the Oscars and whose death was the most important, you know?
Or, like going on Fox News and saying Frank Thomas is still alive.
There's also that. Yes.
Who fucked that up? That's so bad.
Talk about the big hurt. I don't know.
Seriously. And like Frank Thomas just like, has no one seen eugenics commercials for the past 5 years? I'm around, baby. I'm telling people's wives she'll like it too.
All right. Can we clear this up with AJ Cruz here?
Yeah.
Spadoni and Lubman said nice guy big time them earlier this week. They called him Benedict Langford. Any truth to this? Number one, I am called Benedict Langford, and it's a great nickname because I cheer for England in the World Cup instead of Team USA because my whole family's from England. I grew up watching England. That's my team. But anytime the World Cup comes along, Benedict Langford is always brought up, which is a great nickname. I love that one.
I like that too.
And did I big time them earlier this week? No, because they just think that I can come on any time that I want to and with no repercussions. I can't just stop doing my job so I could just go on and join them for a segment for 10 to 15 minutes. I'd love to, but there are certain hurdles that you'd have to clear. And there weren't a lot of people in the building this week for me to just ask permission. So yes, I would love to have gone on. I did not big time them, as they like to say. Although I like how Lubman apparently said, "You're dead to me, Langford," and then literally came to my desk after the break and they started giving me a massage because he's like, "What's going on, big guy?" And I'm like, "Good God, what's happening?"
Well, I want to say that's the definition of big timing because you're like, I'm too busy. I got an important job. I can't.
Yeah, I guess I did. Maybe I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey,
that's cool, man. Finally, I'm in a place where I can big time someone. I've never been in that spot before.
Look at you, big time Langford.
How about that?
Yeah, big time. Before we transition to Warriors and everything, I just want to play a quick little game. So I was watching the Jets, I was watching the Browns, and the Jets already decided that they're going to bring back everybody: Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, Nathaniel Hackett, all because of Aaron Rodgers. And I'm watching that game, and while Joe Flacco had an amazing game and it's fun to watch him, I'm also like, damn, this is the Jets defense. This is what they're gonna come back with. And I know that it's hard to just constantly go back out there as a defense when you have no offense. You get tired and you just let touchdowns happen. But I think it's kind of a little too presumptuous for Woody Johnson and the whole Jets organization to be like, we just got to do a redo. We're going to build off of the hype of the last year. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be annoying as shit this offseason. We're just going to shove Aaron Rodgers coming to the Jets down your throat one more time. And I'm not buying it.
Pause.
Well, yeah, whatever. I'm not buying it again. So to me, I would say between the two franchises, you got. It's funny to me because Kevin Stefanski, when he was hired as the Cleveland Browns head coach, I remember Richard Sherman coming out and saying he had a tweet like, "Oh, so the Browns hired Kevin Stefanski. Meanwhile, Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator of the 49ers that just kicked the Vikings' ass." So at the time, it was Kevin Stefanski, OC of the Vikings, against Robert Saleh, defensive coordinator of the Niners. And Richard Sherman was like, really? They're going to choose the guy that got his ass kicked over the guy that kicked his ass? And to me, Kevin Stefanski has proven that he's one hell of a coach. He has taken the Browns to 2 seasons where they've won 11 wins. And this season in particular is very impressive because of all the quarterback issues. And I'm hoping, I think most of the football community is hoping, that Joe Flacco comes back. It makes it incredibly awkward for Deshaun Watson. But they guaranteed his money, so he's going to play. Meanwhile, I don't know if Robert Saleh is a good coach. I really don't. I think that he's a good leader of men. This is the same argument we're having with Antonio Pierce. But I don't know if he's going to be good for Aaron Rodgers and that offense and the defense going forward. So, I hate hypotheticals, but to play a little game, Steven, let's just say the Browns had Deshaun Watson for a full 17 games this season and Aaron Rodgers was healthy for a full 17. Who do you think has more wins?
I'd go Jets.
Really?
I'd go Jets, yeah.
Why do you say that?
Because Deshaun Watson kind of proved beforehand that he wasn't that great in his return. Like, even, I know we'll talk about it, but even Russell Wilson was looking better than Deshaun Watson did. Like, Deshaun Watson kind of looked like a shell of himself. And really, I don't know if it was just a still, because I didn't see this in real time. But, did you see the contrast between Watson and Joe Burrow after they both got hurt? Like that side-by-side picture?
I have not.
I didn't see it in real time, but you see Burrow on the sideline looking over like a Microsoft Surface tablet helping his team while Deshaun Watson's up in his suite just chilling in a recliner sitting on his phone, like not even caring it at all. I just don't think the team is,
I see.
You know what I mean? Like it felt to me like he was kind of maybe there was some friction there with the team. Like, I don't know, maybe they're just out on him. Whereas the Jets seem to truly believe in Aaron Rodgers, and their season came crumbling down. And who knows what that defense is like? Because I mean, that dude, who is it? Michael Clemens on the sideline,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
giving
yeah.
the half baked to all the fans and not even caring that they're losing to the Browns. Like, I
Yeah.
don't think the defense cares at this point in the season. I think they've given up. So if I had to pick one, yeah, I'd probably go Rodgers if he was playing in an entire 17 game season. What about you?
I would say the Browns because I think
Hmm.
that Kevin Stefanski is
Oh,
a really damn good coach.
okay, gotcha.
And I think that despite of Deshaun Watson's struggles, I like that team going forward much more than the Jets. I think that Rodgers has to overcompensate for his offensive line and maybe even his coach. He sings the praises of Nathaniel Hackett, but when it's not him and Devontae Adams having success, I don't know what that looks like. I saw what Nathaniel Hackett looks like with Russell Wilson and Denver, but I don't know. That was just something I was thinking about because like that team was so hyped up and they're going to do it all over again. And I don't know. I don't know if that's a good idea. And I was thinking about this. I was listening to my guy John Middlecoff on his podcast. He's ripping Robert Saleh. He thinks that he should be fired and not brought back. He's also been calling him out because he believes that he's dyeing his beard, and that just makes him a phony. And I'm like, I don't know if he's dyeing his beard. Like I think that he just naturally has like a full black beard.
That's
It's
hard to say.
impressive.
That's hard to say. Like with Carlos Boozer, you know that he's dyeing his beard
Yeah.
100%. Robert Saleh, it's hard to say because
Well,
he was.
he is doing commercials. I think for there was one commercial I saw during Thanksgiving. It was right when the Dolphins player had that pick six back at halftime, right before
Uh-huh.
halftime, and they ran a commercial with Robert Saleh. I want to say with like hair dye or something, which I was like,
Hmm.
this is ridiculous. Like he doesn't have any hair. I forget what it was. It may have been a shaving commercial, but it was just the timing of it was insane because the Jets just had a shitty play and they went to Robert Saleh, great coach. Hey, just for men.
Was it Just for Men? Is he going to be
I
like
I
side by? Are you going to go into a CVS and you're going to see a box of Just for Men with Walt Frazier and Robert Saleh side by side?
well, yeah, Walt Frazier and who's the other guy? Keith Hernandez.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was just something I was thinking about. Was just like, I don't want to like we'll get to our New Year's resolutions, and it will be kind of Jets related with that for me. But I don't know. Like I think that um, I think it's just interesting, like what could have been this season with healthy quarterbacks, and I think that we're putting a lot of
Mm,
stock into what Aaron Rodgers could have been, and I think that the Browns are in a better position even with Deshaun Watson, despite the fact that everybody hates him and the contract. But I put a lot of value in Stefanski because
yeah.
I think he should be coach of the year. We'll do our JYOMs in a couple weeks here, but I would right now he's my vote over Dan Campbell just because
Yeah.
the Lions have sucked for years and years and years. I've been thoroughly impressed with what Stefanski has done this year.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. They made the playoffs and they were without their starting quarterback. Um, One thing that really I started thinking about after that game. Well, it was kind of, I'd say, compounded by a tweet that I saw, but Will Blackman had a tweet that went viral, basically said like Joe Flacco has been playing against Troy Polamalu all his career. You think he's scared of these guys now? Like, do you think that Tom Brady's comments about how there's a lot of mediocrity in the NFL, do you think that those kind of ring a little more true now that what you're seeing with Flacco, and just the fact that he's able to run that matted PA boot that everyone runs for whatever reason?
No, I don't. I think defenses are really hard now.
Mm,
I think that there's a lot of Troy Polomalus in a lot of teams.
yeah.
No, I just think this is some of the best skill set that Joe Flacco's ever played with. If you really think about
Yeah.
it with the Ravens, he had Torrey Smith, he had Anquan Bolden, and he had Todd Heap and Ray Rice, who they're going to honor tomorrow in Baltimore, which is very weird. But
Eesh.
anyway, yeah, I don't know about that. But anyway, so
It's
he
going to be
had
a hit.
skill. Jesus, Steve. That's almost as bad as when Chris Berman was talking about it during a Monday Night Football game. Remember that? Where he was like, and you never want to see stuff like that. Oh, what a hit! Just like
God.
the timing was terrible, Chris. So the as far as Flacco, having Amari Cooper, like I would say Amari Cooper is probably maybe the best receiver he's played with. I mean, Anquan Bolden was amazing. That's hard to say. I don't know. I think that he just has a really good skill group with him, and he.
Jacoby Jones?
Oh yeah, Jacoby. Jacoby Jones. I forgot
Ah,
about him.
dude. He
No,
played some.
he had some players. I don't know. Maybe he's just in this phase of his career where he was like, I got nothing to lose. Fuck it. I'm gonna go out there and throw it.
Yeah. And that's probably what him and Stefanski talked about too. It's not
Yeah.
even just him. I'd love it if the NFL could go back to that though. Where it's just like stop it with all this little quick game, short
Yeah.
passes. That's how we're going to move the ball. Kind of makes you yearn for the times when it was just, hey, we're going to pound the rock and we're going to run play action. We're just going to chuck it deep. I love that.
Yeah.
That element of the game is missing nowadays.
I think that if I was Josh Allen, I was watching Joe Flacco, I was like, why can't I do that? Why can't no one bail me out with how many interceptions I throw? Which
Facts.
you don't want to play. You play with that. You can play like that later on in your career when you have nothing to lose. Josh Allen has so much now where he's got to be smarter.
Patrick Mahomes too, though. Like Patrick Mahomes. Like, God, can you imagine if I had one wide receiver that could catch consistently?
Yeah.
And take accountability for it.
Let's go to the Warriors real quick as you munch on your bagel. By the way, what do you got there? No, it's all good. What do you got? A little breakfast sandwich?
Yeah, it's a breakfast sandwich. I'll put it up. It's turkey, bacon, cheese, cheddar, everything bagel.
Not a bad combo.
Nah.
Real quick on the Warriors. I don't want to go too long into this just because I'm not freaking out. They are 31 games in. They're below 500. They're 15-16, and they won 5 in a row. Looked pretty good. They're figuring things out without Draymond Green. Jonathan Kuminga's playing in the starting lineup, but I guess that's not good enough for him, as he talked to Marcus Thompson and said that he thinks that he's a big baller and should get the ball in his hands at closing minutes. And then he goes out and has 6 turnovers against the Miami Heat. I didn't put a lot of stock into the loss to the Nuggets. I just think the Nuggets are a better team right now. They're the defending champions, and the Warriors have to deal with them. As far as the Miami Heat game, yeah, they probably overlooked them. They probably saw that Jimmy Butler wasn't playing, and they got outworked, and they got outcoached, as Steve Kerr said. I think that Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA, and sometimes I think he's forgotten. He's won, 2 championships, and gotten the Miami Heat to 2 finals appearances where they were very low seeds. So he always has his team playing hard. And the image of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson on the bench after the game is telling because they're pissed off. But I'm not really going to freak out over this. I remember during the championship season of 2022, the Warriors went into Miami, and they didn't have Steph Curry or Klay Thompson or Draymond Green, if I remember correctly, and they beat the Miami Heat. And that caused, you remember this, Steven, Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler to get into a fight, where Udonis Haslem had to step in. And he's like, I don't play anymore, but I'm going to, Jimmy Butler, you're fucking with my guy here. So stuff like this happens early on in the NBA season. If you look at the Warriors schedule, it's very favorable. A lot of big old home stretch coming up here. Do I think that they're going to be a finals contender? Not right now, unless they make a big move, but one of the guys that they were looking out is gone already. OG Anunoby's being traded to the New York Knicks. RJ Barrett's going home to Canada to play for the Raptors. So they could make a move here. They could package Kuminga and Chris Paul together. Just my quick thoughts on Kuminga. I don't know why you don't have to voice all this. Like this same thing with Patrick McCaw. Everybody wanted James Wiseman to play. Steve Kerr has a way of doing things. And I think at this point, with 4 championships under his belt as a head coach, we should just give him the benefit of the doubt. So, Kuminga, you could complain that you're not getting closing time minutes, but you're probably not going to get them anyway when Draymond comes back. So, I would consider packaging Kuminga and Chris Paul in a trade come February. But as of right now, I'm not freaking about the Warriors. There's a lot of basketball to be played.
Well, there is, but I do think that a trade has to happen. I do think so. Like, if there's going to be any year you do it, the trade deadline's always been, we always do this with the Warriors. They should package this player and get that player. Like, it's not going to happen. Or you're going to net some sort of superstar. Or at least that wasn't the case in years past. But I do think if there's going to be any time to trade, it should be now, because there's just not enough room. It's weird. They're not a top-heavy team anymore. It's not like last year where it's the starting lineup and the bench was the problem. Right now, I guess if Steph Curry weighed 500 pounds, then they'd be very top-heavy, but that's all they got at the top, It's a weird analogy. But
yeah, what was he, the whale?
Yeah, Steph Curry turned into Brendan Fraser. Um, uh, no, I just think that those comments were very telling because Steve Kerr made a lot of good points as to why he didn't play Jonathan Kuminga down the stretch there. It's because Wiggins was going crazy. And then you ask the question, well, why can't they play both? Well, Steve Kerr laid it out for you that the numbers aren't very good. And quite frankly, I don't need that right now. We don't have the time just to experiment with those two on the floor when it hasn't worked. And then Tim Kawakami's article, I thought was even more telling than Jonathan Kuminga's, where he basically gave you the plus minus of these two-player combinations per 48 minutes. And Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga, by far the worst in the NBA. Excuse me, a worst on the team. And so,
sorry not to cut you off here, but he did play them together in the Miami Heat game, and they did not play well together.
Right. It just, I think that if there's going to be any time to trade, it would be now. And for whatever reason, Moses Moody's been relegated to the bench because Kerr clearly likes Brandon Podziemski a little bit more. I don't know. I'm not going to act like I know the ins and outs of basketball to where I could say that this guy would be better than this guy. If that's what Steve Kerr's doing, then fine. I just don't like that the outcome of this, when they're one game below 500, is Steve Kerr's not a good coach. Because
so tired of that.
This is honestly, this might be a New Year's resolution for me, just in general, not a sports New Year's resolution, but a New Year's resolution. I need to stop looking at the comments so much. I'm always big on the replies. I love the comments. Sometimes they're really funny, but they also piss me off a lot. And if you look at the comments on the articles from like Marcus Thompson or Tim Kawakami, or even on Facebook, I've seen some of them on Facebook. Guys say Kerr doesn't know how to coach. He's out of his depth right now. He doesn't know what to do with his players. And I'm just, what the hell are you talking about? This team has been the best in terms of championships since he took over. Stop saying he's not a good coach. Right now, he's got a lot of players who have taken a step back, who have regressed. And then there comes the conversation about whether he can develop players. I don't know if that's true or not. What I do know is that he knows how to coach and scheme things up. And I don't know why, but Moody and Kuminga are not within his rotations right now. And it seems like this is the best time, if you're going to do any, with the upside that they have. Package them, find someone who you're actually going to play, find someone who fits within your scheme. And let's not forget, Steph Curry helps make these decisions too. It's not just Steve Kerr. I get really tired of that because we do this thing where we give Steph all the credit in the world whenever he does something great, but we also seem to just gloss over the fact that whenever Joe Lacob talks about how it's a collective thing, like how it's how we make decisions together. It's not just, I'm going to, do this without consulting with, one of my veterans. They talk to those guys. So you got to take the whole team into account when talking about that. And Kuminga, I got one thing with Kuminga. Are jean shorts back? Are jean shorts making a comeback?
Did he wear jean shorts?
He wore jean shorts. Like, you can call them fashion. You can call it whatever you want. He wore jean shorts. Are they making a comeback?
Shorts?
Because if they're making a comeback, I'm all in. I'm 100% serious. I used to rock the jorts like no other. I used to get made fun of for it. But now apparently they're in.
I could not see even those.
How about that, AJ? Jorts in the rotation. Big fan.
Yeah, wasn't that was like a big Gardner Minshew thing for a while.
He wears like the tight jorts. He wears like the cowboy jorts. You know what I mean? Like Jonathan Kuminga was rocking the baggy jorts.
Oh, okay.
So are they in?
Well, Jesse says don't you dare, so I guess that's a no for you.
Do what I want.
You say that now until September next year, buddy.
I just think if jorts are in, then I'm in too.
Okay.
So,
well, you were quick to call on what does Mike McDaniel wear? His little what are those called?
Well,
capris,
it's not
little pants that throws off the ankles.
It's just joggers that go up the middle of the calf. But then I tried it out for that podcast and then kind of understood what he was talking about. It was a nice breeze down there. Felt good.
Gives you a nice little air on your leg.
Yeah. Kind of have to do that, I guess, in Miami.
Yeah. It's hot.
But jorts, man. All in on the jorts.
Real quick, I wanted to bring this up. And you and I are probably going to differ on this. Jaire Alexander in his suspension. You are probably going to take this from just the fun fan perspective, and I'll take this from the coach stern perspective. If everyone knows the details by now, Jaire Alexander has been suspended for tomorrow's game against the Minnesota Vikings, a pivotal game for the Green Bay Packers because they are still in good playoff contention, and he is arguably one of the best corners in football. He goes out last week against the Carolina Panthers. He's not an honorary captain, but he goes out there as an imposter, as one of the captains, and the other guys are like, "What are you doing?" and he's out there because he's from Charlotte. So come on, I mean, you gotta give me a pass. I'm calling the coin toss. He goes out there with the rest of the team captains when he's not supposed to be, and does the coin toss. And the Packers win the coin toss, and Jaire simply says, "I want defense." And the refs are like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "No, I want defense." And they're like, "Do you want to defer?" And he's like, "Yeah, whatever." And they're like, "All right, you defer," because that's what normally teams do these days. They bailed him out because they easily could have just said, "No, you want defense. So that means you win the coin toss, but you want to just kick the ball off so that you could lose the coin toss in the second half, or lose possession in the second half, I should say."
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. And also, Steven, by chance, do you have the video of him we could play real quick?
Oh, you're damn right.
Okay. This is Jaire Alexander post-game when asked about this, wearing sunglasses in the locker room.
So were you supposed to be a captain? Because the team announces the 3 game captains, and you were the 4th, and you called the toss. What happened there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's only suiting. I don't think Coach knew I was from Charlotte.
So you just did that on your own?
I mean, it was like the guys backed me up. So they knew I was from here.
Did you realize you almost made a big mistake on the call, though?
What'd I do?
Well, you said we want to go on defense.
Yeah.
Which, in theory, they could have said, then you're electing to kick off, which you would have lost the opportunity then to receive in the second half.
Yeah, no, I told them that I said I want our defense to be out there, and they all looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, it's pretty simple what I said. Like, I want the defense to be out there. They like, you mean defer? I'm like, yeah, I guess.
Okay.
Did he say that to you?
Yeah, he did.
The mic was on.
Oh, what?
He heard you.
Oh, really? No, he was just like defer. I was like, yeah. Everybody was like, yeah. Everybody was laughing. I'm like, what y'all laughing at? Like, it's pretty obvious what I'm asking for.
So did anyone say anything to you when you got back to the sideline?
Why would they?
Steven, your thoughts? while you're laughing and eating at the same time.
Coin flip. I love coin flips. They're the best. They have created some of the greatest moments in sports. Matt Hasselbeck acting all excited that they'll receive in overtime. The whole thing with the ref getting it wrong in front of Jerome Bettis. Jaire Alexander doing this. Just all amazing. I love it. I love that he doesn't care. It's terrible. It's stupid. And you could have cost your team the game. I understand all of that. But can we just take a step back and just laugh at this moment? At a guy
I'm laughing.
It's the best. This guy has been he's very confident. If anyone's watched his post-game pressers before, if this is like your first introduction to him, you shouldn't be surprised. You should have, if anyone's watched him before, this is the least surprising thing I've ever heard in my life. So with Jaire and how, I guess, candid he is to the media, just not really caring what he says. He doesn't really seem to have much media training where, I wish everyone was kind of like him, to be honest, where he just gives you an honest assessment. I just love it. I love everything about it. I think it's hilarious. I think they're right to suspend him.
Yes. Okay. Then I'm with you.
Yeah.
This is humorous to us in the media because this is a great soundbite. But also, if I was a coach, I'd be livid. Like, come on, dude. Like, what the hell's wrong with you? You can't just go rogue and go out there because, I'm from Charlotte, and then do the whole, I want the defense. You mean defer? Yeah, I guess. Just the hell's wrong with you? So he is one of the best cornerbacks in football, no doubt. But this suspension is 100% warranted. He is my jackass of the week, even though I love the goofiness of it, come on, dude. This is stupid as hell.
It's great. It's amazing. I love
All right.
everything about it.
All right. Well,
The shades,
yeah,
the hoodie.
the shades too, where he was he's like, no, why would they? Just like, dude, like coin toss stuff is serious in the NFL. Like I remember, you probably remember this, Steven, but some Raider fans may remember this obscure reference I'm going to have right now. Hugh Jackson's first game in the NFL, preseason game. I remember this well. He fucked up the coin toss. He said we want our offense on the field. What he meant to say was he wanted to defer in the second half. Or no, sorry. Same thing, actually. He wanted his defense on the field, but he wanted to have possession currently and defer not kick the ball away, but have the ball in the second half. And it was a preseason game, no big deal. But I remember just being in the booth with my dad that day, and he was like, well, that's not a good sign. And just like, yeah, it wasn't the end of the world, but also just like little things like that makes you wonder, like, is this guy cut out to be a head coach? Hugh
100%.
Jackson was fine, but he didn't, it was one and done with him. So, yeah. Coin tosses are big deals.
If I was a Packers fan, I'd be livid. I'd 100% be livid. But I'd understand if someone was. But to me, on the outside looking in, it's the best thing I've seen this season.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Oh.
It's funny, and I don't think it will cost them because
Oh.
we'll do the picks later, but I think that the Packers will be fine. All right, real quick before we get Alon in here, I want to talk about what happened with Russell Wilson because this is very reminiscent of what happened a year ago with Derek Carr. Actually, very reminiscent. Same time of the year, same quarterback filling in. It's actually eerily similar. So Russell Wilson, I would say he's had I wouldn't say a comeback player of the year type of season, but he's had a fairly decent season. I'd say actually a pretty good season. One that would make you think that he's going to come back with the Denver Broncos. Oh, no. No. So get the alert from Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, I think on Wednesday, that Russell Wilson is going to be benched the last 2 games of the season. And they're saying it's because of poor play and they need a spark on offense. Yeah, we know the deal. Like anybody that's a Raider fan knows what's going on here, and anybody that's an NFL insider gave you the details. Russell Wilson was going to be due $37 million next season. That is guaranteed if he stays on the Broncos roster. There's some conflicting things there if he gets cut. Like I've heard Tom Pelissero say he gets that money regardless. I've heard the dude from Spotrac say that if he gets cut, he gets a reduction of that salary, whatever it is. The big thing is, on the 5th day of the new league year, if he sustains injury or if he's on the team still, I'm not actually 100% sure what it is, he gets $39 million guaranteed for 2025. So Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos went to him after their bye week or during their bye week after they beat the Kansas City Chiefs, which is a big deal because the Broncos haven't beat them in quite some time. But when they came to him after a great performance, I believe, where he threw 3 touchdown passes and told him, you either give up your injury guarantees or we bench you for the rest of the season. And he was like, well, I'm playing well. What the hell? What's going on here? So I guess the NFLPA got involved, and I don't know what the resolution was, but basically Russell Wilson refused, and they let him still play because they were playing well. But now recently they've lost 3 of their last 4. Russell Wilson, well, I thought he had a pretty good performance against the Patriots last week. They still lost the game. So to save money, I guess, next year their dead cap is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the following year it gets cleared up. So basically what's happening here is that Sean Payton does not want Russell Wilson to be his quarterback. It's pretty clear now. This is the same situation that happened with Derek Carr. They are benching Russell Wilson in favor of Jarrett Stidham, who we all know filled in for Derek Carr the last 2 weeks and had a really good performance against the San Francisco 49ers. Not so much against the Chiefs. But they're doing this all over again, and to me, it's pretty clear that that Sean Payton took this job because he was going to be given full power of this organization. He has more power than Russell Wilson, obviously, and he has more power than George Paton, the general manager.
Right.
If he went to the Chargers, he would not have been given all this autonomy, and also the Chargers would have to give a first-round pick for it. He just wanted – it doesn't really matter the job he wanted to take. Like, we're all like, how come Sean Payton didn't want to team up with Justin Herbert? He did.
Yeah.
But he also wanted an organization that would give him full control of the goddamn thing. And it's pretty clear from the jump, he does not like Russell Wilson. He does not want Russell Wilson to be his quarterback, and he's telling Russell Wilson to get out. And I'll say my piece on everything with the interactions as far as them yelling at each other. But this is pretty surprising to me that I think after one season, Sean Payton's like, I can't do it with this guy.
Yeah. Well, with Derek Carr, I actually believe they did give him the season to show them that he was actually worth the next couple of years on his contract. As Wilson said, they told him basically just before their bye week that they wanted him to restructure, or else they were going to do this. So I think that like this is way more unfair as far as like giving him a chance. Like it's different the way that Russ reacted. Like Carr reacted in a way where it's like, I'll explain everything later, like and all this sort of stuff, where it kind of sprung upon them because he thought he was going to be their starter. Like Russ was informed that he wasn't going to be in their future plans early in the season, which is just totally unfair.
Mm-hmm.
But in a weird way, I don't think this is the best thing to happen for Russell Wilson in terms of his NFL career, but in terms of the way fans look at him, this might be the best thing for Russell Wilson. I'm sorry, but all the talk around Russell Wilson, anything you'd see is making fun of Broncos country. Let's ride, making fun of his, kind of just attitude in general, just his whole demeanor,
his cheesiness.
Yes. And like you see, again, this is where I have a problem looking in the comments and looking in the replies and all that. But in some of the replies, out of nowhere, he'd throw like a touchdown and they'd show it, like a 60-yard touchdown pass. And someone in the comments would be like, hey, so how does it feel that Future has one of your children or something like that? You know what I mean? Like all this sort of stuff. I've never seen anyone hate so much on Russell Wilson before, or at least on one player who's as nice as he is. So to me, this is almost like not the best thing for him, obviously, in his career, because it's terrible the way they did him. It was a totally shady situation. But as far as like the fan look to him, now he's going to be looked at as the guy who got screwed over by the Broncos. He's not going to be looked at as Broncos country, let's ride guy. He's not going to be looked at as, oh, he was a piece in one of the worst trades in NFL history. It's no longer that. It's all going to be on the Broncos, and Russell Wilson's going to be the one who got the shit end of the stick. And that's going to be it. I think that plays into his favor, at least in the way that he's viewed. It's probably not what he wants. I don't think he cares really at the end of the day. But in a weird way, I just think the way that we look at him now as fans is going to be totally different to the way that he's looked at for the rest of his career.
Yeah, I will. I'm with you on that, Steven. I think that Russell Wilson has been just run through just the trash lately of just who he is as a person and who he is as a player and off the field stuff. And
his personal life.
His personal life. Like, I get it. Like, it came with the territory. Like, his former teammates would call him out and say, like, he's weird. He doesn't let you have his cell phone number. You gotta get it from his agent. All that stuff was warranted. But I think, I think this makes him a little more sympathetic. I think that he really was playing better. And it wasn't like the best we've seen of Russell Wilson. He's slowly declining. But he did play better than a season ago. And it's abundantly clear that Sean Payton just does not like him. Whether it's his personality or his play, schematically, they just don't fit. I never thought they were going to fit, but I thought that they would just get through it. And Sean Payton would rather go through a total rebuild and find another quarterback, whether that's like Kirk Cousins or a rookie or whoever it is, than play with Russell Wilson. And I know a lot of people are like coming out also and saying like Sean Payton's an asshole for this, and Ryan Clark even called him a thug. I think that's a little much, but he does have a little bit of Gruden in him where he's like, fuck it, this is my team now. I say what goes, and I'm going to turn this thing around the way I want to. And a part of me like thinks that's kind of a cop-out. I think that when you have good players, you should build upon that. But also, as we've seen, coaches, when they have a bunch of power, they'll just do things the way they want to. So it's going to be interesting to see. Russell Wilson's had a better attitude about this than Derek Carr has. He did leak the whole story. I'm sure it was his agent that told Jordan Schultz and everybody else the details of what went down with them wanting him to be benched.
Yeah.
But for him to play the number 2 quarterback this weekend, that's a better attitude than Derek Carr had a season ago. I'll say that, where Derek just kind of left the team. But then again, there's differing reports that the team wanted him to go away. Who knows? All
Yeah.
I know is Sean Payton doesn't look good in this whole situation. I still think he's a really good coach, but I don't know if he's a people person. I thought it was funny. I watched his press conference yesterday, and at the end, Sean Payton's like, "Any questions? All right. See you guys later, and thanks for asking about my birthday." It's like, Sean, no one gives a shit about your birthday, dude. Obviously, the story is that you have a Super Bowl winning quarterback on your roster. You guys don't get along. You don't have to get along. No one says you have to. But then you scream at him on the sidelines. You call him out for being a politician. I thought Drew Brees was kind of like that, but whatever. You back it up with your play. And now you tell him to hit the bricks, which you could do that. But I think also you should give him a chance, really, to be your starting quarterback. And I don't think that he got really a fair end to do that.
The hell is he expecting from a reporter?
I don't know. I thought that was ridiculous.
After this whole thing about Russell Wilson, do you think any reporter is going to have, I guess,
Sean, you're 60. How are you celebrating?
the dignity? Like, hey, Sean, so what are you doing for your birthday dinner? Got any plans?
Yeah.
You make a resi? You do that, Sean? What are you gonna eat? You like steak? You like barbecue chicken for your birthday? What's your favorite birthday meal, Sean?
Is Harry Carey interviewing him? What was that voice?
Hey, Sean, you like spare ribs? Do you like spare ribs for your birthday dinner? I just shotgunned a Diet Coke and I had 30 spare ribs.
Yeah. The whole thing's weird. Let's bring in our buddy, a guy that fills in a lot for Steven. Let's bring Alon to say in the conversation. What's up, Alon?
Hey.
Gentlemen, how are you? And in the spirit of Harry Carey, Sean Payton could polish off a tall, cool Budweiser.
Well done and great
Oh,
time.
washed it down with a nice cold Budweiser. So good.
Alon, thank you for joining us, man. Sorry for the wait. We kept you waiting long enough.
No.
You and I were texting about this Russell Wilson situation. You actually even entertained the idea of him becoming a Raider next season. What do you think about this whole thing?
So I did hear the back end of what you and Steven were talking about, how you, Derek, had said that Russell is handling this a lot better than Derek Carr did. Even though that a lot of the stuff has been leaked from Russell's side, he's still handling it better. He's going to be on the sideline. He's not doing this feign, I don't want to be a team distraction kind of thing. I mean, that was so weird. But I don't think Russell Wilson's the problem with the Broncos. And not that this is going to be super Broncos centric podcast, but he's not the issue. The issue is a lot of times they just can't play consistently. And I don't think that's all on him. And Sean Payton had that quote, what do you expect me to replace the entire offensive line or all the skill position players? I'm going to replace the quarterback. So I don't know. It's a weird situation. I will say this. I tweeted this out that it's so wacky that this has happened 2 straight years now in the AFC West with 2 first-year head coaches. I do think Wilson, even though he's 35, he still has some ball left in the tank. I mean, statistically, if you just want to look at touchdowns and interceptions, he's outplayed Patrick Mahomes this year, although the Chiefs have had their own problems. I've been kind of making the push that the Raiders should take a serious, hard look at him, and it might be the best landing spot for him if they're able to keep their offensive core intact, although that all has to do with how they're able to shed Jimmy G's contract. Obviously, he would be a release after the season, and then they would end up, if you want it to be really team-friendly, you would try to sign Russell for whatever the minimum is and then have the Broncos pay him out. But, I mean, that's unrealistic as well. They're going to have to pay him something. And then you got the whole Ciara angle in it as well. His wife could have some type of residency or concert series in Las Vegas. And I don't know. It's interesting. He's going to be the most prized quarterback on the market. Would you rather roll into a season with Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson? I ask both of you guys that.
For the Raiders?
For the Raiders, but just in general.
Steven, go ahead.
Ooh, Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins? Well, I don't know how Kirk's going to look coming off that injury. You know what I mean? Like you don't know. Like you're right. Russell Wilson's been trending upward. I haven't had anything bad to say about him this year. Actually, I've been very quiet on the podcast because I was dead wrong about it. So I didn't admit it, but he looked really, really good. And that Broncos team also, like, if they don't get turnovers, then it's not going to be the same type of team. They've been their turnover rate, just whenever they're winning that battle, they're truly that team that like plays better when they're winning the turnover battle. So I don't know. I don't know where I'm at with that. I think though you remind me with Sierra. Yeah, instead of like Derek Carr having his brother go on NFL Network and doing this whole spiel and speaking for him, Russell Wilson should have like Sierra create some sort of song about Sean Payton, and have it go platinum, have it be number 1 on Spotify, let me see you 1, 2 step your way out the Broncos door. I don't know, something like that.
That's
Derek, what do
actually
you got?
pretty good. That's
Well,
pretty
I-
good. I like that.
I
Thanks,
could
man.
also see Sierra going after Kevin James, thinking that it was Sean Payton this whole time. I will say this. A couple weeks ago we were talking about Sean Payton screaming at Russell Wilson on the sideline, and initially I was like, okay, well, coaches scream at players, it happens. But I really would love to know the context of that. Like, was it just something that they disagreed on, or just it does come across like Sean Payton just really doesn't like him, like just doesn't want him as his quarterback, and he annoys the crap out of him, like in his play and everything, like who he is. I just don't think it's a good marriage at all. So as far as Russell Wilson, who would I rather have, Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins? I think if you're Sean Payton and the certain offense that you want to run, I think that he probably would be inclined to sign Kirk Cousins over Russell Wilson. Who would I rather have? I mean, just because of given the injury, I would say Russell Wilson. But then again, Achilles are different these days. Like Aaron Rodgers is miraculously recovering pretty quickly from his. But then again, you could easily re-injure it very quickly. So I think that the Broncos could save a ton of money by signing Kirk Cousins over Russell Wilson. I don't think the Raiders need to go after Russell Wilson. I think it's time for them to change a lot of things. And we'll talk about the coach in a little bit here. But I think that another veteran quarterback is not the answer. I think that going with Russell Wilson, I don't think it's a quick fix. I think this team needs a whole rebuild a little bit, not on defense, but more so offense. I would rather them draft a quarterback and get that process going, have Aiden be the backup. He's still learning as well, but just kind of have more of a youth movement going forward at the quarterback position.
No, I can definitely see that. No, the reason I put that out there is just because this Russell Wilson situation, it's exploding, and a lot of people are pointing to places like the Commanders where he could end up, places like that. And I'm like, there's some places with some decent offensive cores where he could go. I've seen some people float the Patriots, and I just see that as Cam Newton 2.0 all over again, regardless.
Well, what about
of who the
Atlanta?
coach is. Atlanta's interesting because he'd be protected by a damn good running back in Bijan Robinson, and they're getting better all over the place. So I don't know, and maybe Atlanta would get him back in the NFC. Maybe he'd be more comfortable there. I have no clue. The one thing I will say about Sean Payton, which I was always kind of watching this season unfold confused about, is you picked to go to Denver. So you knew Russell Wilson was going to be your quarterback. There's no way that you didn't have conversations with Pete Carroll and the people over in Seattle who had worked with him. So you had to have known what you were getting yourself into. But he could have just seen it as, and this is evident now, hey, this is not just going to be a 1 year, 2 year thing. I'm going to completely rebuild this team from the ground up the way I want it to be. So I also do lean your direction, Derek, as well, with the Raiders need a rebuild on offense, and maybe that does involve a very young quarterback. I just don't know in this draft who I'm really confident in as a quarterback, maybe outside of Caleb Williams, just because of what he can do on the college football field. Jaden Daniels is also amazing, but I just don't know what they're going to have to give up to get up into that position to draft a premier top 4 quarterback. And do you want to be the guy who's going to be holding J.J. McCarthy's hand at the end of the draft and saying, yep, that's our guy? Or Michael Penix, who has injury problems and might not be good at the NFL level because of said immobility.
Let me ask you this, Alon. I floated this to Steven. Would you consider trading Devontae Adams to the Jets in order to get a first-round pick? And then you can flip 2 first-round picks in order to move up to get Caleb Williams. Then you are rewarding the Chicago Bears with 3 first-round picks, and that way you can move up to get Caleb Williams, who we've discussed, I think all of us have discussed at one point, that we are kind of concerned with his immaturity, but at the same time, the skill set is absolutely there.
Yeah, I totally entertain that. And I think Devontae would entertain it too. I mean, how could you not? You have a chance to get what you think, if you truly think he's a generational talent which by all intents and purposes, he's proven that he is on the college field the last couple of years. So, yeah, you make that trade every day of the week. I don't know if that trade's going to be available, though. I don't know if that's even going to be out there. So that's another thing. Aaron Rodgers would probably be pushing for it.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot, I think, in the top of the draft. There's gonna be a lot who are clamoring for those top picks because, you look down the board, like obviously Washington, New England, New York, Titans aren't really looking for one, Jets aren't really looking for one, but then you do get Atlanta, then you get the Saints. They're probably out on Derek Carr by now. I don't know. There's a lot you'd have to jump through, and Russell Wilson going to the Raiders. Now that I'm thinking about it, him fitting in that locker room would be weird.
Oh, gotta be worse.
That locker room that's smoking cigars after every game, and Max Crosby hitting it like it's a blunt. You think Russell Wilson is gonna fit in with that locker room? I don't know if he would. Not with the way that they're rolling right now.
Especially if Antonio Pierce stays on as head coach, I just don't see that happening. But before we transition to the Raiders, Raider question: do you guys at all like seeing that Jared Stidham is filling in for Russell Wilson? And I don't know what the situation is going to be quarterback-wise. Maybe Jared Stidham gets a tryout next year while the Broncos deal with all the dead cap. Do you think the Raiders were too quick in not re-signing Jared Stidham after what happened last year where he filled in for the one game with the Niners and played pretty well, and they decided to go with Jimmy Garoppolo and draft Aiden O'Connell, and now we're still wondering what the hell's going on with the quarterback position?
Maybe because I think they were like relying on Tom Brady, right?
They were, but also that he left in free agency after it was well known that Tom Brady wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
I would say the Raiders under Josh McDaniels were too quick to pull that trigger. If that situation was still in place right now, if Josh McDaniels was still the coach, and then we're looking at this situation that's unfolding at the end of the season with Jarrett Stidham getting another soft tryout or whatever we want to phrase it as, then yes, I could say that it's very, very quick to pull the trigger on that decision. Josh McDaniels was a guy who was familiar with Jarrett Stidham, and Stidham, we were at that Niner game, Derek, where he did some really good things. I mean, I know that's just one game, but the guy's been around the league for a while and obviously had a good working relationship, we would assume, with Josh McDaniels. So, yeah, if he was still in power in Las Vegas, McDaniels that is, I would say that they were too hasty to make that decision. That being said, I mean, if you're in Denver and the same kind of situation rolls out, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Stidham's going to stay around for another year because I don't think Sean Payton's the kind of guy who wants to completely rebuild his quarterback room as well. I mean, he'll get rid of the starter, but I think he wants to keep some type of stability there.
Yeah.
And, there's a reason why the Saints all those years, besides the contract reasons, had kept a guy like Taysom Hill on their team for all those years. So I would attribute that to Sean Payton. But I don't think the Raiders were hasty to do it in their current light. But looking back on it in retrospect, if McDaniels was still the head coach, then, yeah, it was a total blunder.
Hindsight's 2020, like at the time, I kind of understood it because you had that one good game against San Francisco, but that Chiefs game was kind of telling, and Jarrett Stidham has been a career backup. So I'm not going to sit here and say they made a mistake in not re-signing a backup. Like I can't say that.
Nope, that's fair. That's totally fair. But I think it's just interesting that he's a part of these very similar situations 2 years in a row. And I wonder what his thinking is. Like, damn, I'm just the guy that fills in when a team wants to dick over a star quarterback. Like, this is pretty nuts. But
how much is he making? How much? What was this?
Jared? He's actually getting pretty good backup money.
Like, I'd be all in on that. That'd be the best gig. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Stay in as a backup. Wait for the veteran to come to blows with the head coach, and then I'll just play the last 2 games of the year and just keep on making that money and keep churning it out while holding the clipboard. I love that.
Yeah,
he's the axe man. If you're a starting quarterback and all of a sudden you see that Jarrett Stidham is your backup, you're like, oh fuck, this is not going to go well for me. About week 15, writing's going to be on the wall. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You're screwed.
Well, it's going to be interesting this offseason. This was like the first, I think, domino of the frenzy of what will take place this offseason. Russell Wilson, pretty clear from his comments to his demeanor yesterday in the locker room. He's ready to go, and he's ready to go to a new team. So that'll be interesting. The AFC West going forward, the Raiders will not see Russell Wilson again as far as the Broncos quarterback. So we shall see what happens to him in the offseason. As far as the Raiders, though, all of us have, well, you and I, Alana, have been texting, and Steve and I have been talking on the podcast about the future of Antonio Pierce, and it took a huge turn last Monday, Christmas Day, against the Kansas City Chiefs with a huge win at Arrowhead. I think the last time the Raiders won in December at Arrowhead, I think, was 2011, where they were on the cusp of going to the playoffs, and then they shit the bed with Carson Palmer, one of my most hated memories as a Raider fan. But it was significant, and despite the offense not performing very well, I still put a lot on Antonio Pierce. We've talked about how much he's galvanized this team, the motivation, everything. But I do wonder if you do make him the head coach, if it's going to be kind of like Mike Singletary, where everybody was in on the moment of it, and it was big, and he was able to lead the team, and it was a different change of pace of what the former regime was. And I just wonder if that's going to translate to a full season through training camp and an off season, everything like that. I do believe Antonio Pierce is a leader of men, but as far as X's and O's, I'm not 100% sure, and maybe that's just because I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. They definitely need to upgrade the offensive coordinator position. They need to upgrade the quarterback position, but defensively, I think this is the best they've looked in quite some time. I'm cool with Antonio Pierce being named the permanent head coach, but it needs to also come with a transaction of who's going to be the face of the offense. So with that in mind, Alon, what do you think?
I think Antonio Pierce, especially if he wins again tomorrow, is essentially forcing Mark Davis's hand to have to hire him. I mean, there will be a full-on revolt, not only in the locker room, but the fan base, if he doesn't hire him. And I also think, we've seen those reports coming out about Mark Davis being haunted by the fact that he didn't hire Rich Bisaccia, which you guys talked about last week. And I agree. I don't think Rich Bisaccia would have, hiring him, keeping him on and everything. They would have went to the playoffs again and again. I don't think you can say that, but I agree with the sentiment that if you do keep Antonio Pierce in place, which I'm for, you do have to get a play caller. And Bo Hart agree, tough position to be in. He was elevated after Lombardi was fired, and there's different people you could hire. You could keep him in place. I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, it's every week is a different Raider team offensively, and that's not good. You need consistency. So I agree. It's going to come with the caveat that they're going to have to hire someone who they're going to be able to keep for 1 to 3 years, 2 to 3 years. I mean, 1 year would be thid win the Super Bowl and someone would hire the coordinator, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to have to hire someone who is going to be there at least 2 to 3 years. I don't see a lot of lateral movement, them being able to poach someone who's already an established play caller from an offensive team already in the NFL. Some people have floated Eric Bieniemy, but maybe not a fair judgment what's going on in Washington with him. But he wasn't a play caller in Kansas City. Andy Reid's a play caller. So I don't know. There's a lot of interesting names in college. Obviously, Alabama has a pretty good coordinator in Tommy Rees. There's Charlie Weiss Jr. You could go and get a veteran play caller, a guy who I think knows offensive football better than anybody, Bobby Petrino. But that's a tough sell as well. He was in Las Vegas earlier this year, had a cup of coffee because he was hired by UNLV, and then he went running for Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. So there's names out there. They're going to have to fill that spot. The OC is going to be very important. That's what's going to make this whole thing work. If you keep Antonio Pierce, it comes with the expectation that you're also keeping Patrick Graham and all the defensive improvement that you've made. But along with the OC, they are going to have to bring in another quarterback, because as much as I like O'Connell and the fact that he's been able to come into a very tough situation, you can't just hand him the keys and say that we're ready to roll, because it's just not there yet. He could be I think he's already at that stage where he can be a fine backup, but we don't know if he'll ever be a real true flight starter.
Look, I'm very easily swayed, because obviously we've seen a lot of crappy defense from the Raiders over the years. But when I see a stat that since Antonio Pierce took over the team, and I don't know if it's him, right? It could be Patrick Graham. There's a lot of variables that could be at play. But when I see that since he took over in week 9, the defense is first in points allowed, first in defensive touchdowns, first in fewest penalties, 6th in takeaways, and 5th in sacks. Like, those numbers are just, I'm easily swayed. Put him as the head coach next year. Figure it out offensively. Like they have found something, I think, with this guy, at least defensively. And if you start with defense, then I am all good with that. And if he can actually bring in some former guys that he's worked with, I think he understands talent. Jack Jones has come on out of nowhere and just become like a staple within this Raiders defense. Like, I can't give you any argument as to why they shouldn't bring him back anymore. He just keeps on winning. And I guess, I don't know, you got 2 more games to prove it, one against the Colts, one against the Broncos. But as of right now, I'm in on Antonio Pierce. Maybe that's because it's very easy for me.
I'm in on it too, but I will say that it needs to come with someone that runs the offense. I think today in the NFL, a lot is predicated on offense. I think most owners look for an offensive-minded play caller to be the head coach. And when you don't have that, the defensive-minded coach or just a kind of CEO-type head coach needs to find somebody to do that. Dan Campbell is going to lose Ben Johnson, but thank God he had Ben Johnson. A big reason why C.J. Stroud will most likely be Offensive Rookie of the Year is because of Bobby Slowick, even though that DeMeco Ryans is the head coach. You just need to find somebody that eventually you will lose, but someone that's going to help your offense. So I've floated this idea for a couple weeks now. What do you think about David Shaw as offensive coordinator, Alon?
I think David Shaw's interesting. I don't know if he will take the job because of it's not because he doesn't want he doesn't want to be in the NFL or back into coaching. He does. I mean, he's been out there saying that, and everyone around his circle knows that. I just don't know if that's the situation he wants to take. Back to the coordinator thing that you guys were talking about. With the defense, we've seen so much defensive progress, Stephen. I agree. Like, it's very hard to just crap that all away and say, no, we will clean slate and start over. I would say Antonio Pierce can be the kind of leader of men that maybe Harbaugh is over in Baltimore. And look at what they've been able to do with Todd Monken coming over from Georgia. I mean, they've liberated. I texted you this, Derek. I said they've liberated Lamar Jackson from the Greg Roman offense, and and he's doing great things. So it does start with players. Obviously, players are the most important component. I agree with Steven's point that Antonio Pierce seems to have an eye for talent, scrap heap talent at that too. Jack Jones was not wanted anywhere, and we know he's a talented guy. So
now he's out there talking crap to Travis Kelce.
Yeah, now he's out there, talking crap to Travis Kelce, and I think one thing that also needs to be tempered on this conversation as well is we talk about who's the head coach, who are going to be the coordinators. I think it's very important that they keep a GM in place like Champ Kelly. It could be Champ Kelly, because I feel that this might be the first time since Al Davis was the owner that the head coach is actually under the GM. Now, we could point at Reggie McKenzie and his situation with Dennis Allen as well as Jack Del Rio, but the Las Vegas Raiders, this could be the first time that they have a GM who's actually at the top of the pyramid, actually making personnel decisions, and the coaches are taking care of those pieces that are given to them. So I think Antonio Pierce has it. I think he should get it. David Shaw is a very intriguing candidate. I just don't know if it's the kind of situation he wants to walk into. I don't think he sees it as attractive because of, he'd be working with a guy who's his first time as a head coach. I mean, beside the interim tag.
Yeah, but I think that David Shaw has to maybe realize that he's not going to get a head coach job right away. That maybe because of the time that he hasn't been out of the game for that long, but he was at Stanford for so long that he was sought after for a while he was still coaching Stanford, but then they had kind of subpar seasons, and now maybe he needs to prove himself again. And he knows Antonio Pierce because they coached against each other when he was at Stanford and he was at ASU. So there may be some familiarity there, but I'm with you, Alon. Maybe David Shaw looks at the situation. He's like, well, no offense or anything, but I'm a head coach. Like I don't answer to Antonio Pierce. Like I've done this way longer than he has, but it may elevate him to get a better job in the NFL. I think we're all in agreement though. And I like your point, Alon, where if Champ Kelly is retained as the permanent general manager, that he would be above Antonio Pierce. And that's something the Raiders haven't had in quite some time, where the head coach is making all the decisions. So I think we're all in agreement here. We would rather have Antonio Pierce than Jim Harbaugh as head coach.
Yep.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's just I think I keep saying it, Harbaugh's time in the NFL, I just think is past, and he's got a good thing in Michigan going, and how could you pass up Michigan money when you're the king? I mean, it's hard.
And who's to say, though, like, and speaking of like offensive coordinators, because Ben Johnson seemingly came out of nowhere, right?
Mhm.
Bobby Slowick, he was known in the 49ers organization, but nobody had heard of Bobby Slowick before this year.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, what if the Raiders have somebody that we haven't heard of,
No, that's fair.
Somebody who's waiting in that coaching staff. And I've kind of just been looking it up right now. There's a guy, Scott Turner, who was the offensive coordinator for Washington from 2020 through 2022. Led a 1,000-yard rusher, had Terry McLaurin, kind of helped him emerge as one of the best receivers in the league. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody there waiting in the wings who we just haven't heard of, and we're just saying names because all these guys are pretty popular and well known. Like David Shaw sounds great. Like to me, it sounds awesome. It's like, oh my God, you got the former Stanford head coach, Raider guy. That sounds awesome. But I don't know. Like it's a really tough discussion to have just as I'd say a more casual football observer as opposed to being like on the knowing the ins and outs of coaching and all that,
Yeah, I 100% agree. I forgot about Scott Turner. He's still on the coaching staff. He may be that guy.
Pass game coordinator right now.
Yeah, I mean that actually would make a lot of sense. And then Bo Hardegree, who did have that 63-point performance, maybe goes back to being quarterback coach. But then again, I don't know if you want to go back when you've already been elevated. So we'll see about that. But I think
degree of difficulty.
Yes. Make decisions. Well done, Stephen. But I think all of us are like, if Harbaugh came over, then he would want to make changes himself. He would want to redo things. And I don't think the Raiders are in a position right now to give a coach full autonomy of the whole organization again. Because that's what happened with Harbaugh, or not Harbaugh. That's what happened with McDaniel. That's what happened with Gruden. Maybe they just go with a guy that honestly, let's be real, is cheaper and can actually still galvanize the team. So I'm in all on that. We'll see what happens with Antonio Pierce. Speaking of Harbaugh, I loved the press conference for the Rose Bowl. He's in Pasadena, close to LA. I mean, he's in LA, so a lot of Chargers media was there. They were asking him, are you interested in the job? Do you want to take it? And he's like, we're a team that just looking forward, gentlemen. Bet, yeah. All of us, or whatever the weird acronym he came up with for bet. He's just so fucking weird. He's just a weird guy.
Yes,
but I love it. So whether he goes to the Chargers or not, I don't think the Chargers should hire Jim Harbaugh either, but that's just me. Because then they'll rebuild that whole thing, and you wonder about Justin Herbert, but they just paid him. Whatever. Before he leaves, if he does leave to go to the Charger job, or maybe he stays with Michigan, there's rumors about that. He's going to get a big old contract. Also, I read with Harbaugh, he's got a third violation that he's going to have to deal with come next season. And on top of giving the burgers to the kids and whatever happened with Connor Stallions, now he has a thing where he recruited improperly during COVID. I don't know what that means, but something's going to happen. And he can't just bolt to the NFL. I guess Ian Rappaport believes that if he gets hired by the Chargers or some other team, he will be suspended. So why would a team pay for that if they have to deal with the same bullshit that Michigan would have to deal with? That all being said, I think that this CFP run for Michigan will be very telling of what he's going to do. I think that if Michigan wins the whole damn thing, then Harbaugh feels comfortable. He's got his college football championship, and then he can go after the elusive Lombardi that he's been trying to compete with his brother for. But if Michigan fails and doesn't get a national championship once again, the mission is not done yet. So that's how I think he's going to handle this thing. But Alon, I watch college football. Steven watches a little bit. You watch way more than both of us. I'm sure you've been watching all the bowl games and whatnot. It's hard for me now. Like I can't watch Ohio State with nobody playing against Missouri last night. Yeah, no. And even like I know people are like, oh, this USC quarterback throwing 6 touchdown passes. All right, who was USC playing? I even forget.
I don't know. I didn't watch the game.
Yeah,
that's how interested in that game I was.
USC was playing Louisville.
I mean,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on, the talent level on USC to Louisville. Like, what are we doing here?
Miller Moss.
What'd you say?
Miller Moss,
baby. Maybe better than Caleb Williams. Whatever.
Caleb Williams hasn't thrown 6 touchdowns in a bowl game.
That's true. He never actually had to play in a bowl game, though. So of importance, I guess. So Alon, we have very interesting college football playoffs. Are you in LA right now, or are you in Vegas?
So I'm actually in Anaheim right now. Drove
Nice,
down
and
yesterday.
and you still made it on with us. Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, I brought the Roadcaster with me and the microphone. I got all my accoutrements or accoutrements, whatever you call them.
Damn.
But came down to Anaheim and went linked up with the family yesterday and went to Disney's California Adventure.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, so I got to go on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride and the
Mm.
new Incredicoaster and soaring over the world. It was amazing. It was
Sword over the world's good.
yeah, the best $189 I've ever spent. I only
Nice.
waited in line an average of 70 minutes per line. It was great. I loved it.
Oh, sounds worth it.
No, but down in Anaheim yesterday, today, and then tomorrow go to Disneyland, and then spend the night in Manhattan Beach, and then on Monday
Oh
get my
fuck yeah!
ass
You
up
guys
to
going
the.
all out.
Oh yeah, and then me and my brother are gonna go up to the Rose Bowl on Monday, and we'll be at the game. We're on the Alabama side, which will be nice. And I've never gotten to see a game in the Rose Bowl before. I've been to the Rose Bowl. I did a baseball game. It's actually over at the baseball field across the street from it. But yeah, I'm very excited. So I hope Alabama wins, obviously, being an alum. But no, it's just going to be great to see. Like, it's Alabama and Michigan. It's just two blue chip powerhouse programs. How could you not be excited?
So besides Saban and Harbaugh facing off against each other, which is a big reason why Alabama made the CFP over Florida State, we all
Oh,
want
yeah.
to see this. It's much more intriguing. I get it. What do you think about this matchup? Usually in bowl games, we've seen the SEC dominate the Big Ten, and in my opinion, Big Ten plays more physical football as far as just running the football and playing good defense. It's kind of like a lot of Big Ten football reminds me of the AFC North in the NFL. It's just kind of like teams that can run the football, play good defense. There's obviously good passing offenses. Is it JJ McCarthy or JT McCarthy? Actually, I'm terrible with names these days.
JJ.
JJ McCarthy, and I guess he's in the mix for some draft stuff, but I got to watch more of him. How good of a passing game does Michigan have, Alon?
JJ McCarthy, when he's able to get outside of the pocket and make some really nice throws on the run, they have a passing game that is definitely dangerous. I will say this, Roman Wilson, excuse me, who's probably their best receiver. He's not 1,000-yard guy, but he can still get open. He's going to have a tough matchup, whether it's against Kool-Aid McKinstry or Terry and Arnold, the
God, I love
two
that name.
cornerbacks Kool-Aid, who could be first-round picks in the NFL. I mean, like, Alabama has an embarrassment of riches on the back end, and their worst guy maybe is Malachi Moore, who's still going to be a drafted player. So the passing attack, if Michigan gets the passing attack going, it's for one of two reasons. Either they've totally figured Alabama out, or they're so far behind that they're having to pull out all kinds of stuff, tricks out of the hat or whatever. But I think this game for Michigan is so important for them to get Corum going on the ground. They did not have a good rushing showing against Iowa in the Big Ten championship after Zach Zinter, one of their offensive linemen, went down, and he was a big part of their success. It's just one guy. You don't think that one guy on an offensive line can make that much difference, but you know what? They really can. And Michigan had a hard time running the ball in the Big Ten championship, but I mean, that was a month ago. So it could totally be different now, and they could come out, and they're a very physical team. Jim Harbaugh is not going to let this, opportunity slide by. I wouldn't think. He's going to have his guys ready as ever. So I as good at the passing game, I don't think that's where Michigan's bread and butter is. I think it's definitely in the run game. JJ McCarthy's efficiency actually goes down in the play action game, weirdly enough, even though they're such a good running team. He has more turnover worthy plays in the play action game, and that just might be because he's airing it out deep. But I think they're going to have trouble getting a guy like Roman Wilson open against some of these Alabama corners. It's tough sledding.
Steven, anything you would like to ask?
I got nothing on Michigan, Alabama.
I will
enough.
say this about JJ McCarthy. McCarthy will be drafted. He will be a quarterback in the NFL. That is
First
for
round?
sure. No, I wouldn't draft him in the first round. If he does, that just points to the fact that we have a very weak first round draft class of quarterbacks. Outside of maybe Caleb Williams and Drake May, people really like as well. But the thing with Michigan is the running game's super important. They are going to have to contend with Jalen Milroe's legs. So are you going to spy him the whole time? I mean, it's not like Michigan doesn't have the personnel to do that. Junior Colson, who's one of their best linebackers, he has great sideline to sideline speed, and he'll be able to track him. But we kind of saw this. We saw this with the Ravens and the Niners the other night on Christmas, where the Niners had to account for Lamar Jackson on every play, and that just stresses your defense so much more to kind of put in more of a Bay Area centric to kind of relate to maybe people don't watch as much college football, but devoting a guy to spy a quarterback or to watch him or to have tabs on him every single play, you're playing with 10. And guess what? The offense is playing with 11 when the quarterback can run.
Yeah, Alabama, anytime I've watched college, which has been very minimal this year, but when I've watched Michigan, sure, they're defensively, I'm more interested in watching them than I actually am on offense. Like JJ McCarthy didn't excite me in the few games that I watched. And Jalen Milroe, even though he has struggles throwing the football at times, him having the threat with his legs, I just think makes all the difference whenever I've watched them. It just stands out, and he's strong and he's huge, big dude.
He's huge. Since that benching in week 3 where they benched him, Saban benched him against USF, and that game was on ABC, and that was like people were calling for Saban's head after that game because Alabama was up like 3-0 at halftime, and Jalen Milroe since then has just grown. Tommy Rees has come into his own as a play caller. So I think Alabama has a lot of natural advantages, not only with the fact that they have Nick Saban, but also they have a quarterback who can run. And Milroe, even though his legs are amazing, he's best when he's able to throw it deep. When he's able to drop back and just throw a deep 50-yard bomb through the air, 50 air yards, that is, he's able to take the top off of any defense, and it can be very difficult to deal with. All that being said, Michigan is just gritty, tough. They have a defensive line which can get after just about anybody. This could be a lot like the Georgia-Alabama game. This could also be a lot like the Texas-Alabama game if Michigan's offense comes and shows up.
Real quick, I saw Jalen Milroe have this quote this week where he said that Bill O'Brien back in the day suggested that he doesn't become a quarterback, that he plays something else. And it showed that really bothered him and how he's been able to overcome that. Are you surprised that Bill O'Brien would suggest that to him? And do you think that's something that, I don't know, like has motivated him to become the better quarterback that he is today?
I definitely think it motivated him. Bill O'Brien, well respected not only at Alabama but around the NFL, regardless of what he did to the Texans. But shots fired. But the thing with Jalen Milroe is, okay, if you're looking at him now and you'd say, yeah, you're psycho. How could you not want this guy to be a quarterback? He can do it all. But if you're looking at the raw recruit of Jalen Milroe or even Jalen Milroe a few weeks into this season, you look at the athlete and you say, why am I not getting the guy out there wide? Why is he not a tight end? Why is he not a dynamic wide receiver and who I can get someone to deliver the ball to him and then he'll make everybody miss or run through people? So I don't think it was a bad assessment by Bill O'Brien when he made it, but now with the evolution of Jalen Milroe, you would be, well, you really have to look at it very objectively and say, the raw recruit, he easily slots in and could be a day one starter at any of the skill positions, whether it's tight end or wide receiver. But now he's a quarterback and he has just elevated. He's been more dangerous than Jaden Daniels has at LSU since week 3. And the stats haven't been as great, but just the plays that he's able to make, the things he's able to get out of, the way he's able to dominate the game, the way he did against Georgia, it's incredible.
All right, well, let's pick these games in the college football playoff because they're interesting, and I think that get our little gambling listeners to get in on. I mean, Alon knows a lot more about gambling than me and Steven do, since you live in Las Vegas. But we'll give our picks too, Steven, if you want to. If you don't, you don't have to. But what do you think about this line? There we go, Steven. Michigan, being the 1 seed in the CFP, is 1.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 45. I think I know who you're going to pick in this game, Alon, but I'll let you say it.
I'm taking the over, and I'm obviously taking Alabama. Just because I can. I'll be pilloried, tarred, and feathered, all the things you can think of if I go back to Tuscaloosa and I don't pick Alabama. But yeah, I'm picking Bama. I think the quarterback position is just better for Alabama. I think the coaching's better for Alabama. I will say this, though. Michigan gets the run game going. Everybody in Crimson Tide, and Crimson Tide has had trouble with run games in the past, and quarterbacks like J.J. McCarthy. So if things start going sideways, I mean, it could be an avalanche because Michigan is a very good team when they have momentum.
Okay. Steven, you going to take a pick?
Give me the under and lay the points with Michigan. Going the complete opposite.
All right. This is tough because people have told me this is the best Michigan team that they've had in quite some time. And it's showing that, things have turned in their favor, beating Ohio State 3 years in a row. But watching Alabama in that SEC championship, things have changed. I did not think they were going to beat Georgia, but they took care of that. And until I see otherwise, it really isn't just the SEC. It's anytime Michigan's in a bowl game. Last year, me and Alon were in Vegas together, and we saw TCU score point after point against them. There was no defense played in that game. So I think that Michigan will put up a fight. I think they'll make it physical with Alabama. But I think the SEC, just the conference itself, is better than every other conference in college football. So for that reason alone, yeah, I am going to take Alabama, and I am going to go over. And Alon will be a happy man.
Thank you.
Comes to fruition in L.A. So it's you and your brother going to the game tomorrow?
Just me and my brother going Monday, and
is it supposed to rain? I'm seeing here that I guess people in the chat are saying it's supposed to be atmospheric river. It's supposed to rain pretty hard during the Rose Bowl.
Yes, there is supposed to be rain. I will have a poncho equipped and ready to roll out, but hopefully it doesn't rain because I don't really want rain. But then I did think about it, and I went, you know what? I miss the days of going to a soggy, rainy game at the Oakland Coliseum, and this might be my next chance to go to something like that.
Just real quick, do you think the rain would favor Michigan with their running game more?
Yes, I think the rain favors Michigan because it slows down Alabama's speedy cornerbacks to keep up with their receivers and just, muck it up, Michigan all day.
Okay. That's the high-profile game between the two, prestigious programs, the two high-profile...
What about your college, Derek?
I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. But obviously, Harbaugh versus Saban, sexy. Then you got Kalen DeBoer and Sark going against each other, which is pretty big. I think this one's more of a head scratcher because you got the underdog favored. You got I guess not really the underdog. They would be favorites, so they're not the underdog. But they are the lower seed. But in the 2-3 battle, it's Washington against Texas, and Texas is favored. And I'll just say my piece on this. I'm very intrigued by this matchup since both these programs played each other a year ago. But things have changed dramatically. Texas is a different team. I'm not buying Quinn Ewers as a quarterback in the NFL. I'm not even buying him as a quarterback for UT next season. He says he wants to stay, but I rather see Manning's nephew. I can't even think of his name right now. Arch Manning. Thank you.
I thought, Alon, you were making an arch with your arm, like literally when you were doing that. I was like, nice.
I was gonna be like Cooper Manning. No, that's his father. Arch Manning, who I probably should be the starter if they don't want to lose him in the transfer portal. But Texas, they played well, but also they've given up big leads and they survive a lot of games. So I don't know. And Washington has a great offense. They have a great quarterback. Could have made the case that Michael Penix should have been Heisman winner this season. But this is a very close matchup, in my opinion. And I don't know if I agree with Texas being favored by 4. Alon, where do you come down on this matchup? And yes, Texas is favored by 4. The over-under is 63.5. Good Lord.
I like Texas to win and to cover. Both these, it is a head scratcher, Derek. both these teams get into a lot of nail biters. Washington beats a lot of teams by 3. We'll say this: Texas runs an offense. Their philosophy can at times be very similar to Oregon. They run a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage in their passing game, whether it's screens or different razzle-dazzle they try to do. Washington beat Oregon twice, who likes to do stuff like that. So Washington is going to be well prepared. But I think Quinn Ewers and I think that Sark are going to have a really good plan against this Washington defense. And I think Penix is going to be under duress all day from Texas.
Okay.
So I'll take the over, and I'll take Texas to cover.
Ooh, taking note of that 63 over. Steven, have a thought on this game?
I normally would if I watched it as much Texas. I watched Washington a lot because of the Pac-12, but
And you're an Oregon Duck guy.
sort of. So halfway there. Yeah, I don't know. Freaking A. I'll just take Washington to cover the 4, but I'll take Texas to win, and I'll have it be a close game.
Okay.
And I'll have the over.
Washington covers. Texas wins.
I think there's a lot of points in that game, Steven. I agree with you. I mean, it could be close, but I think both teams are definitely going to score over 30.
Yeah, I'm going to do the exact same thing as Steven. I think that Texas finds a way to win the game, but they always play close. I don't see this thing. If Texas wins the game, I think it's going to be on a field goal, maybe even overtime. So yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take Texas to win. I will have Washington cover, and I will go over. And then it will be very interesting because then it will be Alabama versus Texas for the national championship. And me and Alon will hate each other.
Yeah, it's what the committee wants. It's what the ratings want. It's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
So Alon, you said you go to Disneyland tomorrow. What's your game plan with? Are you going to attempt to watch the Raider game at all, or are you just going to have fun at the happiest place on earth?
Oh no, I'm watching the Raider game tomorrow. I already found a sports bar to go watch it at that opens up at 9:30 a.m. and I'll be very happy, man, in the happiest place on earth, or a very disappointed man, the happiest place on earth.
Well, there you go. Well, Alon, thank you so much for stopping by and talking college football with us. Since you know a lot more than we do when it comes to college football and betting, obviously. So, thanks a lot. Enjoy your time and in Disneyland and going to the Rose Bowl, and hopefully stay dry.
Of course, guys, always a pleasure to come on. Steven, take care. Derek, take care. And for everybody who is watching and listening, thanks for being here.
All right,
Thanks,
Alon.
buddy.
Thanks as always, man. Have a good time. What a good dude.
Yeah. Yeah. He knows a
Bringing
lot.
bringing his equipment to help us out while he's on vacation.
Very professional.
Oh, extremely. Unlike us.
Yeah.
Should we pick the NFL game, Steven?
Are we going to do that throughout? Are we going to do all 20 minutes, or do we just put the graphic up after? Because it takes a while.
Okay. It does take a while, you're right. So, okay, look at the slate and you tell me 3 games that you are interested in as far as what picks you like.
Well, for one, I'm going to pick the 49ers to lay the points, and I'm going to take the over because I think the 49ers are going to bounce back in a big way against Washington. And it looks like Jacoby Brissett might not play. Washington signed Jake Fromm this morning. I don't think
Did they really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to play. So if I had to pick one, God, that would be the one that I put a lot of money on because I think the Niners are just going to crush them. The over and under is 49.5, and the Niners are favored by 13.5 right now. Yeah, I'd absolutely take the Niners and lay the points. And the other ones, I think it's going to be an interesting one with the Patriots and Bills because the Bills, I think, are just going to run all over them. So if I had to pick a favorite, lay the points with the Bills, kill them, except take the under in that one. And then just because it's a division game, and I actually think that he could do the same thing he did last year. I might take the Denver Broncos and lay the points with them just because Jarrett Stidham's going to kill the Chargers. So give me that one and give me the over.
Yeah, I got that. I think I agree with everything you said. You like the Niners with the points, 13.5?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing. Just don't know who's playing quarterback, and the Niners need to rebound from what happened from Monday night's game. Yeah, I'm taking the Broncos. I'm laying the points. I think that Jarrett Stidham's going to do the same thing that he did a year ago. He probably gets this offense a lot better than Russell Wilson does, and now we're going to see it with Sean Payton. So, and also the Chargers put up a good fight. Something happened.
We have another actor death. Not a. I'm sorry. Keep going with your scores. But
okay. Well, I'll finish up here. I will take I will take the Broncos to win and lay the points there. And then what was the third game you had, Steven?
Broncos Chargers. Lay the
No,
points
no,
with the
no.
Broncos.
Was there one in the middle between
Yeah, Bills and Patriots.
Oh, Bill, yeah, I'm laying the points with the Bills. I think that Bill's ready to get out of there.
If you had to
Bill
give me my
Belichick
favorite, if you had my favorites that I think that are going to just, there's a lock, it'd be that one. Also, my Thursday night game, that was just an immortal lock for me. Over,
yeah.
laying the points with Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you have a 1 point lead on me with being confident in the Browns. Just the picks that I like tonight. Well, tonight and then tomorrow. I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys to win. I'm going to lay the points, and I'm going over on the 52.5. I know that they haven't looked great, but they're also more of a home team than a road team. And I think that the Lions, coming off the high of clinching the division, will lay down a little bit tonight against the Cowboys. So, interesting matchup. Lions have yet to play any NFC contenders. They haven't played the Niners. They haven't played the Eagles. They'll play the Cowboys tonight. And while I think that the Lions have been fun this season, I don't think they're as good as those three teams. So I'm taking the Cowboys to win. I am going. The Buccaneers have been very impressive, but for whatever reason, I still don't see them winning the division. So I don't know why I'm doing this. I am going to take the New Orleans Saints to beat them because they have had a longer time to prepare. They played the Rams last Thursday, and I just think that I'm still holding out hope in this weird thing where Russell Wilson gets benched. I think Derek Carr makes the playoffs somehow. I think that the Saints are going to win the division. And I know the Buccaneers have looked awesome and Baker Mayfield has looked great, but I can see the Saints defense kind of confusing him and mucking it up a little bit. So I am going to take the Saints, but I'm not confident in that one. But that's just an interesting pick I'm going to have. And then to make things really interesting, I'm taking the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Bears. So that way we go into the last week of the season with all three of those teams, the Bucs, the Saints, and the Falcons, all 8-8. And then we have
Good
no
God.
clue who's going to win the NFC South. So I just
Boy.
want that for mayhem. The big game this weekend, I'm taking the Ravens to beat the Miami Dolphins. So that way they clinch up everything in the AFC. Jalen Waddle not playing for the Dolphins is going to be big for them. And then lastly, I'm taking the Packers to win. I think they're going to make things interesting the last week of the season where if the Packers win out and the Rams lose to the Niners, then the Packers are in and not the Rams. And the Niners need to have that game the last week to get the 1 seed. So things will be interesting. We'll release our full picks later today on our social media page, and that way you can keep track with us of who's going to have to do hot sauce next week. Steven, I hate to ask, but who's dead?
Tom Wilkinson, the guy who played June Tao in Rush Hour.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, right? I'm sad about it.
How old was he?
75.
Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
too bad. Tom
Yeah.
Wilkinson. I want to say he also was the gangster dude in Batman Begins.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Yep, I remember the face. British actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah. Underrated, I think. Underrated. Could do everything.
Good character actor.
I'd say so. Full Monty. You ever seen that?
I know of it. Yeah, with the dude from Viva Rock Vegas, Flintstones.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Speaking of movies, real quick, just want to have a little plug here. My buddy Andy Young, who I've grown up with, one of my best friends, went to college together. He edited a movie called Merry Little Batman, which is on Amazon Prime.
Huh.
And it's a kids movie about Batman having a son and him wanting to be like his dad, and it's a whole Christmas movie. It's quite cute and quite fun. So if you have kids or you're just a big kid like me and you like Batman, I highly recommend it.
Batman with a beard.
Yeah, Batman with a beard. Yep, got a little goatee.
Damian Wayne.
Yeah,
That's pretty
fun.
sick.
Yeah. Shout out to my buddy Andy. Also, I watched you texted me about this, Steven. I watched the 30 for 30 on Reggie White, the Minister of Defense. I knew that Reggie White in his later years was studying Hebrew and the Jewish faith, but I didn't know. Like NFL films always had the shot of him reading the Torah in his 32 Jim Brown jersey. But he gives an interview that I've never seen before where he basically says everything that I have been preaching for most of my life is bullshit.
Yeah.
And I was actually shocked by this documentary because for the longest time, I've known Reggie White to be one of the best defenders of all time, but also very outspoken about his religion. I'm sure I would not have liked Reggie White back in the day. He also said very disparaging things about homosexuals and different races. And then right before he died, he gave an interview to NFL Films that I don't think many people have seen, where he basically says I was wrong all these years. So I
Yeah.
have never seen that before, and that was pretty surprising to me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and the people that they got on too, like LZ Granderson.
Yep.
And all that, talking about their experience as media writers who are also who are gay and their reactions to it whenever he was speaking like that, and just how much it actually hurt the gay community, and as opposed to where we're at now. I thought it was fascinating, the entire thing. I was locked in for the hour 40 minutes.
I didn't know where they were going with it because I thought it was just going to be like a 30 for 30 on Reggie White, which like I've seen a million of these. I've seen A Football Life on Reggie White, but this was the first time where I was like, they're not painting the best picture of him. And I was like, where is this going? Is it just going to be like Reggie White was an asshole and we just got to remember him for being a good player? But no, the ending is amazing, where it's an interview where he's honest and said, I was a puppet. When I was coming out of college, my Baptist church told me that if I played football and preached the gospel, that would give a lot of people to focus on Christianity. And he's totally honest in saying, like, I led people wrong, and I'm surprised that that's not talked about more. And because I think a lot of people remember Reggie White being a great player, but also being very religious. But I did not know anything about this. This was actually, like you said, Stephen, extremely fascinating.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the entire time. We saw last night the Iron Claw.
How was that? I'm actually thinking about watching that eventually.
It was good.
Not
really
great.
solid. Yeah, I mean, if you know the story, then you know the story. I mean, it's depressing, but it's really good. And Zac Efron's massive. It's just crazy to think. What?
No, I'm saying, like, I've seen the previews. They've all, like the dude from The Bear, like they all bulked up for that.
Yeah, but more so Zac Efron than the other guys. Like it looks natural with the guy from The Bear, Jeremy Allen White.
Okay.
Like he just looks naturally big, but with Zac Efron, it's like, dude, what are you taking? Like, you know what I mean? He's huge.
Well, that's an unspoken thing in Hollywood too that no one talks about, is the HGH that actors take. Like, I think Edward Norton's been one of the few outspoken people that was like, when I did American History X and I had to be like ripped, I took steroids. I'm not fucking hiding it.
Yeah. It's great. So,
okay.
And AJ, no, he did not. It was Jeremy Allen White who played Carrie. Zac Efron played Kevin. And I forgot the Harris Dickinson. Yeah,
John?
I think that's not John. Harris Dickinson played David. So really good. Yeah. I recommend watching it.
I've heard that's one of the best movies of the year. So I'll get around to seeing that along with it's on HBO Max now, so I have no excuse.
But they did. I'll say this though, they did cast the one guy who can't do a Ric Flair impression. The Ric Flair was awful.
I heard that's a big criticism in the movie.
Just terrible.
Didn't do the woo?
Oh, he did. But it's very briefly in it, but he cuts a promo, and it's just the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Okay. Well, I don't even know the story of these brothers, so I'm planning on going into it absolutely fresh.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I'll get around to seeing it eventually. Yeah. Do you want to play real quick Dion Dawkins and James Cook at the hockey game?
Let me find that real quick. Yeah.
This is actually very fun. And the Bills, I know the Ravens were very impressive. Now that the Chiefs have lost, the Bills could move up to getting the 2 seed if they beat the Patriots and the Dolphins. Bills are good, man. Bills are good. No, but this was fun. This is along the lines of who was it earlier this year? Devontae Smith and DeAndre Swift going to the Phillies game.
It's DeAndre Swift and someone else. It wasn't Devontae Smith. I forgot who the other one was.
Okay. Well, whoever was that? Oh, no, it was Terrell Edmonds, the safety. He's not there anymore.
That's right.
Anyway, this is Dion Dawkins and James Cook at is it a Sabres Penguins game?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or Sabres Bruins rather.
Sabres Bruins, gotcha.
All right, go Darlene, do something. Ice that.
Boom! Oh! My hot dog. My hot dog.
I know they be banged up. Yo, I want to do this. Like, we could all be defense and offensive players, bro. That be lit. It be dangerous. That lit, bro. Oh, we dropped the stick. What was the call? What's slashing? What is that? What is slashing? They start playing DMX when they start fighting, right? But they not slick for that. That was a good save. Caught that joint like this. When you catch like that. Oh! Yo, it was like in the air. Yo, that's a Sports Center top 10 play. The puck was flipping in the air. He took his stick. It was like, that's tough. Take that. Oh! Yeah, boy! Yeah, boy! Yeah, boy! Yeah. That's one. Hey, 3 more. Oh, take a shot. See what I mean? But they got a wad of a lane. They got to take that, right? That's not that easy.
That's fun.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the whole bring athletes to their first sports event type thing.
It's fun to get those reactions. Those are priceless.
Because they have, like, you know, they're similar. They're all athletes, so they can have this certain respect, I think, for other athletes when they're doing their thing, even if they might not understand the game. Like, baseball is pretty well known to be boring. I thought the one with actually in Philadelphia was a little more telling, because everyone knows baseball to be this boring ass sport. Then you bring 2 football players there, and then they start learning about the ins and outs of the game and start paying attention to it, how fun it can actually be. Although they were at a playoff game in Philadelphia, which seems to be like the most fun atmosphere ever.
No,
So
yeah, no doubt. Before we get out of here, Steven, what is your New Year's sports resolution? This could be, because we're going into 2024, this could be something personal or something that you want overall in sports.
you go first.
Okay. I personally, it's going to be a personal one. I love talking off-season NFL football. And sometimes I get too wrapped up in it. Like last year, I cared way too much about DeAndre Hopkins and Dalvin Cook and shit that didn't really matter after a certain point.
Huh.
So, going forward in 2024.
If only you had a friend telling you that.
Yeah, I know.
Time, you know.
And now I'm listening, Steven. Going forward in 2024, I am going to not care as much about, like, get so wrapped up in NFL offseason stuff, because it always disappoints us. There's always hype. There's always rumors. And I'm not going to buy into any of that shit. I'm just going to let it happen, and we'll react to it when we do. But I'm not going to play the game of, you know, like, thank God we don't have to deal with Aaron Rodgers anymore. Like, is he coming back? Is he not? I'm not playing that game anymore. We'll talk about the fuckery. We'll have a good time with it. But I'm not going to go all in like I have in the past.
Interesting. Well, for me, I guess mine would be, and this kind of plays into something that was on my mind, but I'm going to, as far as like listening to other sports opinions and all that sort of stuff, I'm going to judge it based on the message and not the messenger.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you were going to bring this up. My apologies. I didn't bring this up.
Yeah, but this doesn't have to be that long of a conversation. But it just felt like this past week, as I'm seeing stuff from, you know, Cam Newton and Debo and that whole thing, you know, with Debo calling Cam out and then showing the text, and then Cam saying, "Yeah, that wasn't me who sent the text. I don't have that area code." Like, who are we to believe? Then you see the way that it's written, and you see like the font. You're like, damn, that's got to be Cam, right? But I think we do it too much, where we're just focusing on the messenger and not the message. And even ESPN did that same thing. Like when Cam came out saying all that game manager stuff, like they're all making fun of Cam, the person, but they're not speaking to the actual message that he's conveying.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, after that game against the Ravens, I think the jury's still out on Brock Purdy and whether he can actually come back and win you a game. He can run the offense and excel at it and run it and operate it at an extremely high level when the going's good. But when the going gets tough, and I think Dominique Foxworth was making an excellent point about this, and I think this speaks to the Shanahan record too, of 0-38 now when the team's down by 8 points going into the fourth quarter. We're going down by at least 8 points in the fourth quarter. The defense is not getting fooled. You got to improvise. You got to go away from the script.
Yeah.
And you know, you didn't see much of that in that game against the Ravens. And I think Cam, the point that he was trying to make, I think it's kind of been validated over the past couple of weeks. That there aren't as many just dynamic playmakers in the league right now, and ones who are just going to bail you out no matter what happens. We just did so much of it this past week where I'm seeing all this stuff about Cam and making fun of his appearance and how he dresses, which I get, I get all that. But I've been doing a lot of muting this week because I just don't need to hear you're clearly biased in what you're hearing and you don't like the message that he's telling you, but you're not listening to what he's actually saying. So I just think for me, I'm going to try to focus more on the message as opposed to the messenger, unless there's like an extremely good point where you can find there's bias in whatever they're talking about.
No, I agree with you 100%, Steven. I initially, when Cam Newton made his comments, I was like, I don't know if I I was guilty of it. I don't know if I like it coming from Cam Newton, but I do agree with everything he's saying, because I think initially we're all like, here comes Cam with a podcast.
Because we just think he's being, we just think, like, I see a lot of the comments like, how are you hating from the outside of the club when you can't even get in? And it's like, they think it's from a jealous standpoint, but I think it's I think he just genuinely breaks down the game and sees that.
Because I think we remember him recently saying that he still is a great quarterback in this league and he was shitting on other guys. This comment's different. I understand exactly what he's saying. And while it sounds disparaging to Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott and other guys that he brought up, it's 100% accurate. I actually am in agreement with Cam Newton the more I think about it. Now, I did watch his video with his retort back to Deebo Samuel. The funniest part about it is he's in an airport and he's just sitting there recording himself. I just picture like somebody working at a Cinnabon being like, "Who's that guy with the top hat? Is that Cam Newton just talking to his phone right now?
Yeah,
responding to Deebo Samuel right here in the Charlotte airport. This is weird."
Yeah. There's just a lot of that this week. And then I saw the stuff with like Chandler Parsons and John Morant celebrating by doing this thing where it looked like he's making the finger guns and people were calling it the bazooka. And then I see I see a comment saying everyone's overreacting because he's doing some dance from New Orleans that's trending nowadays. But not everyone knows that stuff.
Yeah.
Not everyone knows the like when Chandler Parsons is out there saying you got to be more aware of what you're doing. Like, I get that. But then people started making it out like, well, if John Morant were to go to any restaurant in Memphis, then he would get meals for free. Chandler Parsons would, have to pay extra in order to get into the restaurant, that kind of thing. So they started attacking who he is. And I understand that, I guess, from a Memphis Grizzlies fan perspective, but you're not focusing on the message that he's actually trying to send. Instead, you're focusing on the messenger. And I think we have a problem doing that with a lot of things in our society. It's not just sports, but, yeah, so I'm going to try and do that. I guess that's my New Year's resolution. Focus more on the message as opposed to the messenger.
I agree with you 100%, Steven. And as we say on this podcast, it's just your opinion, man. So people are entitled to have their opinions, and it doesn't matter who says them. At the end of the day, they're just opinions.
But I will stand by my point about Robert Griffin III that sometimes just tries a little too hard in the jokes.
Oh, 100%. Although I will
agree
say
with a lot of what he says, but it's just like sometimes the jokes are just like, come on, man, do you really got to? It's not that funny.
It's a little forced. Although I will say his interview with Cam Newton, not bad. If those two guys did a podcast together, that actually wouldn't be bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'd actually, well, I don't know if I would listen, but I catch the clips.
I'd listen to that, and then I'd go to Club Shay Shay with Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco and hear about their sexcapades.
That is an all-time clip with it ending with Dion going, y'all nasty. Y'all nasty.
Yeah.
And on that note, thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks to Alon for joining us today. Always happy when he comes on. You'll probably see a lot more of Alon in the new year because Steven is going to have a big year in 2024. He is planning a wedding, and I'm assuming he's going to forget about this podcast. But big things are coming for Steven Langford, you and Jesse. So
yeah,
looking forward to that. Happy for you guys. Happy to everybody having a big year in 2024. We'll be back. We'll figure it out next week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever the Warriors are playing. We'll be back in the new year, coming back strong on you. And I guess AJ Cruz, my cuss counter is down to 2 this podcast. You know what? I was going to ask, is it possible for me to not cuss an entire episode? So I'm going to try the next episode. A new me in the year 2024. Probably won't last long.
It's just cussing. It's no big deal.
I know, but maybe I could be more professional. Who knows? We'll find out. But Until that time, Steven, say what you always say.
It's just our opinion.